to continue to build our Jewish IQ and build on ideas we've told you. And now we're going to incorporate it as I'm trying to create connections to help you remember the different concepts. And the connection is how we connect them to the Torah and the 5 books of the Torah, and specifically Sefer Bereshis. So just like we need to know all the other important Jewish information, we need to know the Parshas of the Torah, and we need to know what our Avodas Hashem is from Parsha to Parsha. So that you should have like quick recall on that. You should know the first Parsha is Bereshis, and what's the message. The second Parsha is Noach, what's the message, and what's my Avodas Hashem. If time allows, we'll squeeze in also, we didn't forget about our months in the calendar. We'll try to squeeze it in, although I don't know if that's going to happen today. So let's just begin with the basic overview. What we're going to do today is overview the beginning of the Torah. We'll give you an overview, and then next week we'll get more into detail Parsha by Parsha. That's the idea. So let's begin with the very first pasuk of the Torah. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. In the beginning, Hashem created the heavens and the earth. So Rashi tells us from the Medrash right away that cannot be the interpretation of the pasuk, because the word bit, reshis, literally means, bit means in, reshis means beginning. There's no such word in Hebrew, in beginning. Okay? Therefore, if you want to say in the beginning, it should say ba reshis. Ba means in the. So bit cannot mean that. Therefore, it can mean something else. Bit can be a contraction of the word bishvil, for the purpose of. Beis, the prefix beis can be a prefix for the word bishvil, for the purpose of. So, we could say, for the purpose of that which is called reshis, that which is called first, God created the heavens and the earth. So what are things that are called first? So Rashi gives us 2 things. The Jewish people are called first, and he brings a pasuk to show you that. In the book of Mishlei, the Jews are called first. So God created the heavens and the earth for a group of people called Yisrael, who is yet to be determined and specified who those people would be. Anybody could be Yisrael. And at the beginning of creation, it was not yet determined who that is. So for a people called Yisrael, the Jewish people, and Rashi, the second thing is another reshis, and that is called the Torah. Okay, so the Torah is also called a reshis, a beginning. So God created everything in this world for what? For the Jewish people and for Torah. Okay, that's the reason why God created the world. So he created the world to learn the Torah, live by the Torah, and who would learn and live by the Torah? The Jewish people would learn and live by the Torah. That's why God created the world. Now there's more to that, and really it's interesting, the 2 classes that I'm doing, this class that I do Monday night as well, and the Tuesday night class, which is an Olam Haba, are going to really overlap a lot. They're independent classes, and I'm not going to mention one of the other, but you're going to see one fits into a hand into a glove. So if you're doing both, you're going to see how they merge very nice. But each one can go independently, not to worry. So that's what we got to know. God created everything that exists, the heavenly realm and the earthly realm. Every single thing was for a purpose, and the purpose was so there's a Jewish people and that there's a Torah that they will live by. That's the opening comment. And then we go through a lot of stories. And now we look at the next Rashi. It's a long Rashi. And the basic gist of this Rashi is, Rashi brings out from the Talmud, Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, where should the Torah have logically started? If the Torah is instructions for living, that's what Torah means, instructions. So if the Torah is giving you instructions for living, the Torah should begin from the instructions for living. And the very first commandment of the Torah given to the entire Jewish people is found in the second book of the Torah, Sefer Shmos, 12th chapter, 2nd pasuk, in Parshas Bo, when we are commanded the mitzvah of sanctifying the moon. That's the first commandment of the Torah, the first instruction for living. So he asks the simple question, Why did the Torah start from that? What do we need all these stories for? Which is, there's no mitzvahs per se in any of that. So as we're moving our way down to the bold, remember, don't match up your pages with my pages because I've expanded the font. All right? So he says, I'll tell you why. And he quotes a pasuk in Tehillim, the Hebrew and the English. Mishum koach ma'asov higid la'amo loses lahem nachal as goyim. That's a pasuk in Tehillim, which translated, he declared to his people the strength of his works, meaning he describes the whole creation, in order they may give them the heritage of the nations. What does that mean? So it means like this. Later on, when the Jewish people are going to want to conquer the land of Canaan, the non-Jews will say, you're a bunch of robbers. You took it by force from the Canaanites, which is something that is still being said till today. So they're going to say, you're a bunch of thieves. So the Jews will say, listen, don't you know what it says in the beginning of the Torah? It said God created the world. So if God created the world, he's the boss of the world. He gives it to whom he pleases. Hebrew, that word is, I bolded it, Lasher Yoshar Be'inov, to the one that he pleases or is straight in his eyes. So he first gave it to you, then he took it away from you, and he gave it to us. So that's what we need to know, that God created the world, because there's a Baal Boss in the world. There's someone who's in charge of the world, and therefore the fact that we have the land of Israel is because God wants us to have the land of Israel. That's our answer to the nations of the world. So to this, Slonimer Rebbe asks 3 questions. They're not exclusively his questions. So this answer only answers why the first chapter is written. Because the first chapter is creation, but doesn't explain the need for the next 60 chapters. Just say God created the world, and now let's move on to the first mitzvah of the Torah. That's question number 1, yes. Question number 2, as we'll see in a minute, what about midos, character traits? The Torah does not talk about character traits. It doesn't say, thou shalt be a humble person. Thou shalt not be an arrogant person. It doesn't say, doesn't word midos like that. Now you're wondering, well, what's so important about this? So here's a very important piece, source number 6 from Rabbi Chaim Vital, a great Kabbalist, but this part, you don't have to be such a Kabbalist to understand. And he explains, he says like this, after giving a little bit of introduction to the 2 different types of souls we have, he says, and there's a reason why midos are not included in the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah. There's a reason why. Why? Because they are the prerequisites to fulfilling the Torah or not. Why? He says like this. He says, we got 2 aspects of our soul. We've got the soul, that's the intellectual part of the soul, the very, very divine part of the soul, that's mamish, very, very connected to Hashem, and that understands the realities of existence and wants to do the will of Hashem. That's one part of our soul, a very lofty, lofty part of our soul. And then you've got the body and the animalistic part of the soul that keeps the body running and gives the instructions for a body to run. There's 2 aspects of the soul, the divine aspect of the soul and the animalistic aspect of the soul. Every human being has an animalistic soul. Jews only have a divine soul. Well, the divine soul wants to do the will of God. Yeah. But the problem is, it can't do anything. It can't do anything. The divine soul can't move your body. Lo aleinu, if a person is in, what do you call it? What's the sickness when they can't move their body? Their minds are working, but their body's not working. Let's say Lou Gehrig says, your mind is alert, it knows everything, it just can't do anything. So the divine soul is like that. So it's got to get the body to do it. So how does the body do it? You get the animalistic part to do it, and then it's able to do it. But there's the rub. The rub is the animalistic soul is very tied up to your midos, to your character traits. And therefore, if your character traits aren't in order, as much as the intellectually divine part of the person wants to do things, the midos are not going to let you do it. So let's say at a very simple level, you are lazy. Laziness does not come from your divine soul. It comes from your animalistic soul. Now, if you choose to be lazy, the divine soul says, time to get up for davening. I ain't getting up. On the other hand, if you could take the animalistic soul and have it become alacritous, it likes to get up and do things, then the divine soul says, move. It says, how far? So therefore, the development of midos really takes place in the lower part of the